a lot of the times I don't let the demo be the telltale sign as to whether I want to actually put money down on a game or not.
Wait, isn't that exactly what a demo is supposed to do? What do you...
It's supposed to be, but a lot of the I'm
You're like a contrarian existence of a human being.
Aw, you're too sweet.
What up, kids and squids? Welcome to the Nintendo Everything Podcast, Episode 9. I am your host, Oni Dino, and with me I have the laziest blooper in the sea, Galen.
Merry Christmas!
It's past Christmas, shut up.
Merry past Christmas!
Yep, so this is our post-Christmas show. What you been doing for Christmas?
Played a couple of card games, played some Drunken Mario Party, which was a lot of fun.
Drunken Mario Party, the best Mario Party!
Drunken Mario Party is the best Mario Party. We played a game that every time you lost a mini game, you had to take a drink, and then every time you got a star, everybody else had to take a drink, but to keep it fair, the person who got the star had to take a drink for every star they had.
Wait, so you were punishing the star getter?
Well, yeah, just to keep it fair.
Wait.
It made it so interesting, because you
came up with these rules, didn't you?
Of course I came up with these rules.
Yeah, I can tell because they sound stupid. Right away, they sound stupid.
They were awesome.
Well, I'm sure everybody got drunk, so that's fine. I guess they weren't unsuccessful, huh?
Oh, I believe they weren't. I can't remember much of what happened after the first, 5 stars.
Then it was probably a success.
I believe so.
So I'm guessing you've been playing some Mario Party. Anything else you've been playing?
Yeah, actually. I've been brushing up on Smash Bros.
Cool.
I have to be honest, to what I was saying beforehand, the new Spirit mode is really starting to grow on me.
Yeah.
As opposed to the old Subspace Emissary. The surprise hit for me was actually the Spirit... Oh gosh, what was it called? It's on the tip of my tongue here. Not the story mode, it's the one where you go and they lay out the different characters that are stickers, spirits, whatever
Spirit
they are
board
that you
or
can actually
something?
get. Yeah, I'm finding that to be incredibly addictive. It's got that mobile gameplay gotcha element of, oh, I have to jump on every couple minutes to find out what characters have shown up that I can go ahead and get.
Yeah, but you feel way more in control of it than like a gacha game.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's more like, here's the random things that appeared, and then it seems like if you beat it and then, if you beat the stage or whatever's set up for you and then you shoot the gun and then you don't get the character, it seems like that character reappears much quicker, so it's forgiving a bit, I suppose. I don't know about forgiving, but it's accommodating and it doesn't feel like, ugh, this stupid mode.
Well, and I've had a couple of times where I've actually haven't been able to get the character, so I just use the other items to do the rematch, for example, and bring that character back up. I'm never at a point where I wish I could go ahead and I'm waiting to get another shot at this. So, yeah, it's really nice. I'm thoroughly enjoying the game and going through everything it has.
Very cool. I haven't played it very much lately. I would really like to be playing it a little bit more, but just I've been busy, so the only gaming I've really gotten in is turn my brain off and relax kind of gaming, and for me that's Warriors type games because that's just such mindless action and it chills me out. So I've been playing more of Dragon Quest Heroes 2, which I talked about several weeks ago on the podcast for the first time. I still really like that game. I can't believe how good it is. I wish that it had come out for the people in the West because it's a lot of fun and it feels so different. You move from town to town town to town sort of, and you have big open fields where you fight, so it feels like an RPG rather than going from stage to stage to stage like it is in most Warriors games, which wasn't really a problem for me. It was just getting a little stale. So this one really shakes up the formula a lot, and God, I love it. So that's really the only gaming that I've been doing, because just turn my brain off, lay in bed at night, and yeah, just play an hour or something.
Now, I gotta be completely honest, I haven't actually played a whole lot of the Dragon Quest games in the past. There was one that they came out with on the original DS that I got super into.
No, there was more than one they came out with on the original DS. They remade like a bunch of them.
Yeah. Which was the one where they introduced the not Street Pass feature on it?
I don't know, dude. Like, I wasn't really playing that many games during that era. They released, like, I think, like 6 freaking games on the DS. There was a couple original ones and then a bunch of remakes, I think.
Well, I just remember there was one that came around that time. Me and my friends super got into the game, and we ended up going to, I believe it was either a gaming convention or an anime convention, and while standing in line to go to the different shows, we pulled out our DS, went to go jump into the random dungeons that it could generate, and everybody in line was playing this game. Like, it was not even funny. That's super cool. Yeah, I know. It was one of the most inclusive times I've ever felt playing that game. It was really nice. Say what you will about online gaming and everything, some of my favorite memories have still been that couch co-op feel.
Because then you get to, like, sit there and like, get hype off of the other person being hype as well, and then you get to, like, you know, drink and talk or not drink and high five and whatever. Like, that's all good stuff.
Or try to high five, miss terribly.
Lose an eye, never be able to play video games again.
Lose an eye, start an argument with somebody. Yeah, that sounds familiar.
So this took a dark twist.
Dreadful!
This week's episode. Let's talk about what this week's episode is all about. It is our 2018 sort of year in review, kind of. We are talking about, since it's the very end of the year, there's not too much news happening, just talking about what games came out this year that we super loved, mostly on the Nintendo Switch.
I think we should preface this by, this is not necessarily a top 10 list by any sense. We're not saying, like, this is the best game. Yeah, that's been done several times before. I think this is really just a list of games that we were really kind of moved by, struck by, and just really kind of resonated with us.
Yeah. This is just games I like that came out this year, and I'm BSing about them. You sit back and you relax.
Exactly. So, Oni, why don't you go ahead and start?
Sure. So one game I definitely wanted to talk about was Into the Breach. Into the Breach is an indie game that came out on the Switch. I think it came out at, like, sometime around E3 or something like that. There was definitely a video, like, direct or whatever. Then they were like, oh, and it's available right now. And I was like, no way, because I had heard about this game a little bit earlier in the year, and it was on PC. And I was like, oh, this is fantastic. I love this style of gameplay. I was hoping it would, like, maybe come to the Switch someday, and then it came to the Switch, like, a couple of months later. It was great. So Into the Breach is a tactics RPG that is so incredibly in-depth and so, like, the movements and the things that you do are so basic, but they compound on top of each other like a chess game. And the majority of the time you're spent in between turns being like, okay, if I do this, then it's going to do that, and then it's going to chain into this. And okay, no, what if I changed it right here? And then how's it going to affect this way? And then what's going to come next turn? So it's very chess-like. God, I just love some critical thinking. So that game is great. Did you ever play it, or did you hear about it?
This one flew under my radar originally. I haven't heard of it. I haven't played it. I'm really surprised that this one flew under my radar.
It's incredible.
I am all for strategy games, tactic-based games. One of the games that I was really excited for last year was Mario and Rabbids, simply because it had that kind of strategy or strategic element to it of planning out your moves, planning out your actions. Hearing more about this game, it actually made me really want to play it, because this is exactly the type of genre that I'm into.
Yeah, it's really good in that it makes you choose between different levels. Like, you have sort of a choice between level A or B and sometimes C, and you can only choose one at that time, and you can never, like, completely fill all of the map by the time that it's over with, at least in my experience. And it's super hard, so there's a lot of replayability in it, because you can choose different not randomly generated, but I suppose it's randomly generated sort of levels or objectives in the upcoming level that you're going to get. So it has a bit of roguelite elements to it, but the roguelite aspect of it is not particularly overbearing in my opinion. It just was so great, so hard to put down. The moment I picked it up, I was like, oh no. This is going to be so incredibly addictive, and it was.
I was sold when it said, "Hey, you've got a giant squad of giant mechs, and you're fighting a bunch of giant kaiju monsters." I'm like,
yes,
okay,
it's mechs
right,
versus kaijus.
I'm
How
good.
can you
I'm
not
good
love
with
it?
this. I'm totally good with this.
Yeah. So much fun. And the pixel art is great. I love the really detailed pixel art, but it still has that pixel aesthetic. Because if you get too in depth on your pixel art, then it's just going to look kind of regular. But they do such a good job with this.
That was going to be one of my questions for you. Is like, did they overdo it with the pixel art? Because you have some games that come out and it's a little bit heavy-handed with how it's drawn or how it's pixelated, I guess, if you will.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean, because when you're using something that has a much higher resolution, like say it's 1080, then you have all of these little pixels that you can adapt to, right? As opposed to back before, when a game was 16-bit or 8-bit or whatever, you only had so few pixels to work with. So if you're suddenly making your blocks just bigger and exactly the same, then you're doing nothing different. But if you make it too detailed, then suddenly you have sort of an over elaborate picture and it doesn't come off with the right aesthetic. So another game that I'm going to be talking about in a minute is Octopath Traveler, and they really nail the pixel art aesthetic as well.
Oh, I've got some input on that one because we'll get to that in a bit. Really quickly, I think I wanted to switch over to one of my games.
Okay, well, Into the Breach is really good. Everybody buy it. Everybody please play it. It's so good. I think it's even on sale right now. I don't know. Check it out. What do you want to talk about? You next.
I would love to talk about Wizard of Legend. We were just talking about the pixel art aesthetic and pixel art style that's out there. This game definitely falls into that category.
Yeah.
I've learned that I am a sucker for a good roguelike. So Wizard of Legend, Rogue Legacy, what was the other one? Gungeon, or Enter the Gungeon.
Oh, Enter the Gungeon, yeah.
Yeah.
Really good. That game is really good.
All of them were fantastic games.
Yeah.
No, I love the aspect of every time you play this game, it is a completely different experience. And yes, there are elements of progression that you can make into it, but really what you need to start growing on is your own skill playing the game. Mm-hmm. Learning how your character moves, learning how the enemies move. It really is kind of a throwback to back before save states and just progress in general was there. It reminded me a lot of the older days where you had to actually grow as a gamer and you had to grow in your skill and learn how to play the game instead of just forcing your way through it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that still is alive and well in modern gaming as well, but in a lot of mainstream games, I think that even though they're marketed as like a hardcore experience, they have so much hand-holding or so many forgivable situations that they put you in where it's not actually difficult. But I do think that still exists.
Exactly.
I'm trying to dissuade you from starting to say like, games are better in my day or whatever.
Games were better in my day back when you only had 2 buttons and 3 lives.
Yeah, so definitely don't want to be saying that. I don't think that you are really saying that, but I want to get away from that immediately because I can't stand it. I will open palm, slap a person, and come around for another slap when I meet those people.
So would that be like a cyclone slap? Like, are you spinning around? Or
I'm spinning around. I'm spinning, and you can't stop me.
We're gonna have to come up with a special new move name for you when you do that.
It'll be like the Tatsumaki Senpu slap.
We're gonna record sound bits on that one. I like that.
Okay. Tatsumaki Senpu slap.
Going back to Wizard of Legend specifically, what I like so much about this game is that it's a little bit like Rogue Legacy, where yes, you have to progress your skills in the game and how you actually play the game, but it gives you the tools to also grow your character as well. So you play as a wizard who is going through 4 different dungeons, trying to complete some sort of trial that's in the game. You go into the game with a number of spells. Each spell is attached to a particular button input. So you have your your light spell, which is, hey, I'm gonna throw a bunch of like water punches at you, and then you have your, hey, I'm gonna surround myself with fire and do a dash attack, and then you have your, here's my medium spell, and here is my really large spell. And as you go into the game, you discover different shops, and you can go ahead and purchase new spells on the fly that you can't take back with you, but it prompts that level of experimentation. I want to try different spell combinations. I want to try different movesets.
But is there like hard progress that you're making in this game at all, or is it just purely like blank run after blank run?
So every time you beat a boss, you get a different type of currency that you can actually bring back with you when you die. And then in the hub world, before you go back into the dungeon, there are shops where you can buy different cloaks to wear, which will give you different stat bonuses or stat buffs. And then there are different spells that you can equip and initially bring into the dungeon with you.
Okay.
There's different artifacts that you can buy that it's like, hey, this will give you stronger fire attacks, or this will make items in the shop cheaper.
Yeah, so that's pretty standard. That's good, though.
It is incredibly addictive because you feel like you're actually progressing in the game, but at the same time, it's a fresh new experience every time you play it. The way the game is controlled, the way that you move your character around, it feels good. It feels good playing the game.
Yeah, I saw some of the trailers, and it really turned me on to purchasing the game when it went on sale, and it did, and I bought it, and I still haven't played it yet, so it's the kind of person I am.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of person we all are. Let's just be honest here. Cards on the table.
Yeah.
The battle style and like the frenetic action frantic, whatever action that was going on, it was so enticing, and it looked so pretty, and I love playing like mages, wizards in all of my games, so I was all about it. So I already purchased it, but I need to play it.
No judgment, no judgment.
Yeah, there should be no judgment. I loved this year The Messenger. Do you know about this game, Galen?
Yes, I do, actually.
Have you played it?
Have not played it, but I've definitely had my eye on it. I think I'm waiting for it to go on sale, if it's not on sale already.
I think it's on sale right now. Like a million freaking games are on sale in all the different eShops, so check it out.
You're probably right on that. No, this one looks really good. I'm a big fan of platformers like this, especially the ones that really kind of test your skill.
So, it is a side-scrolling platform, action platformer. And there's a lot of homage happening to Ninja Gaiden. However, I think it feels quite different from like classic Ninja Gaiden from the NES. You are a ninja and you have this cloud step ability that you're introduced to immediately. That's pretty much the crux of your platforming. Cloud step is where you hit something in midair, then suddenly you get to jump. And then if you hit another thing, you can jump again and rinse and repeat. So they mix that mechanic in with all these different items that they give you, like a, like a fly suit where you float down kind of slow. What's that movie? Just 'Cause. Isn't that, not movie? Did I say movie?
That you did say movie.
Whatever. It's one of those games anyway. I don't like them. Anyway, so you have a fly suit, and then you can get different upgrades where you can attack in the fly suit, and then there's a grappling hook kind of thing, and the gameplay is really fun. The level design initially is like a bit uninspired, and you're kind of like, oh, this is kind of easy and whatnot, but then there's a couple of gameplay twists thrown your way, and there's even like some story, not like twists, but like revelations more so, revelitons. Revelitons, yes. The gameplay and the story are interwoven really well as you continue along, and then there's like these spikes suddenly of progress that the game is taking you through. So initially it's like a stage-to-stage action platformer like Ninja Gaiden was, then you are warping back and forth between these two modes on seamlessly, but not on the fly. So like it's only in certain areas, and then it changes up the level design and like where you can go and what enemies there are. Then after that, it turns into a pure Metroidvania, and you're jumping from one side of the map to the other, and it's very interesting. It also, the level design gets much better after you hit that first gameplay twist, and I really advise everybody to just like continue to go through it. Not that the level design is bad, it's just that it's intentionally supposed to like pull the wool over your eyes, like, oh, this is not that hard, like you're getting pretty good at it, and hey, you're nearing the end of the game. And even somebody in the story even says that. The writing is also pretty good too. But anyway, I'm sorry I went on about that for way too long. It is so much fun. It feels so good to move around and jump, and you should be playing it, Galen, because you like action platformers.
Oh yeah, like I said, this one's been on my radar ever since I started to hear more and more buzz about it.
Who doesn't like ninjas?
Who doesn't like ninjas?
Yeah. So, do you have a game that you want to talk about?
Absolutely. I'm going to break away from the indie stuff a little bit and go on to...
Oh yeah, we've been talking about indies.
We've been talking a lot about it. This was a good year for indies.
It was, yeah, especially on the Switch. Indies are killing it on the Switch too. Like,
absolutely.
They keep like almost consistently selling more on the Switch, or at least like when compared to like PS4 and Xbox at least. Sometimes they outsell on Steam. Other times they completely outsell Steam.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Speaking of indies, that reminds me, and I'm completely sidebarring myself here. Have you gotten a chance to play Gris at all?
By the way, sidebar, not a word, I don't think. And no, I have not played Gris yet. And it's pronounced Grease.
Grease?
Yes. C.
All right, Grease Lightning. Anyway.
No one has made that joke before.
No one has made that joke, and no one will ever make that joke ever again.
You know what I think is better than Greased Lightning is Grease Me Up Woman. That one's better.
Okay. Should we make a list of, different Grease things?
No, because that sucks.
Stay tuned next episode where it's the entire thing is just going to be us coming up with Grease puns.
Guess what? Not happening. Talk about your next game.
So I want to talk about Monster Hunter World. Now, not necessarily the Switch version. I'm talking about the one that came out for the PS4 earlier.
Wait a second. I have to correct you right off the bat. People are screaming at you. The listeners are screaming at you right now. There isn't a Monster Hunter World for the Switch.
I could have sworn there was a Monster Hunter for the Switch.
There's a Monster Hunter for the Switch, but not a Monster Hunter World for the Switch. Monster Hunter, what is it? Generations Ultimate or something it's called? I don't remember what it's called exactly, but it's the one that came before it.
Yeah, Monster Hunter Generation came out for the Switch. I'm talking about Monster Hunter World.
Yes.
So, this was my first entry into the Monster Hunter franchise, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, never really had a chance to play it. It's been one of those games that I've always wanted to play, but there was always something else that had come out alongside it. And saw this game on sale, picked it up, and I'm really surprised I haven't gotten into this sooner. Loved running around, smashing up dinosaurs. I think I made one too many Jurassic Park jokes the first week I was playing that game.
I'm sure that got old immediately.
Oh, it got old before I started to even say them. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I was done with it the moment I heard it.
Full disclosure, I know how bad my jokes are. I still say them, but I know how bad they are.
You might be aware that your jokes are bad, but I don't think you know how bad they are, though.
No, what I actually really liked was I got my wife at the time, fiance, kind of into this game too, and the way that I kind of got her into the game at the very beginning was the little cat guy who was your partner who walked around the entire time.
The Palicos.
The Palicos, yeah. And the entire thing was, hey, look, I can put a turban and a mustache on this guy. Hey, I can give him a little flute that he can go ahead and bash monsters on the head with. That was the big selling point. I find that hilarious. I love the fact that was something so small can be so appealing.
Yeah, I think on Monster Hunter 4 or maybe Monster Hunter Generations, there was Mega Man costumes and Chun-Li costumes for them.
Oh, I want to run around as a Mega Man and Monster Hunter.
Yeah, there was Mario and Luigi ones too for them.
Really?
Those were on the 3DS.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Man. Any game where you can play basically paper dolls or dress up, I'm totally down for.
So you play with with dolls? That's what you like to do?
If I can change their outfits, yes. Yeah, I will admit that I'm totally okay with that.
It's on record, folks.
Hello, my name is Galen, and I like to play with paper dolls and video games.
Tell me about Monster Hunter World, why don't you?
So, awkward silence aside.
It's your awkward silence. You live there. Go ahead.
I live in the awkward silence.
You do.
No, the game was a lot of fun. It surprised. The combat took me a while to get used to, because I think I was going into it expecting a hack and slash.
Yes, that's what happened to me in my very first experience with Monster Hunter as well.
Yeah, and it took me a solid 3 or 4 play sessions before I realized, no, this is completely separate. You have to approach this from a timing aspect, and you're doing, attack A into attack B into attack C, and you're like linking your moves together, as opposed to slash and slash and slash and slash and slash and jump back, use an item, slash and slash and slash.
Yeah. I like and I really appreciate a game that has very well established rules and well established telegraphing, and then it's like, listen, I know you like to play a game like A, B, and C, but this game plays like Z, and you're gonna play by its rules or you're gonna have a bad time. And so the game is sort of dictating your play style. And on paper that sounds terrible to me, and there's a lot of poor execution in that concept, but I think that Monster Hunter is one of those games that gets it right.
Absolutely. You mentioned that you had played the game before. What's your experience with the Monster Hunter series?
So I've only played the series before. I haven't played World. I thought about it a lot because I heard a lot of good things about it, a lot of good streamlining things that have happened in Monster Hunter World versus some of the previous games. But ultimately, I'm just not a Monster Hunter fan, and it pains me to say that because it should be such my jam. Big old monsters, create your own weapons and your armor, and you hunt them down so you feel really good about it because you use their parts to make your armor and whatnot. Sounds freaking awesome, but there's no narrative. And that is my biggest issue about pushing forward. I don't know. I don't know. It's such a commitment, right? And the path of entry is also very difficult. Like getting into the game and getting going, that's also very difficult. So I don't know. I've got so many other games to play, so it's fine.
Exactly. And I'm in total agreement with you right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took me a while to kind of get into the game, and I think it was because I was approaching the game in the wrong way, like we said before.
Yeah.
I will definitely admit it is an acquired taste. Like, you have to go into it expecting a game that you're going to be hunting and grinding, and you're not going in for a narrative, you're going in for the experience. You're going in for the journey more than anything else.
Yeah, that said, that kind of thing excites me where it's like, oh, I'm getting together with 3 of my buddies online and we're going to go take down these monsters and, talk to each other like friends on the voice chat. And that sounds so exciting for me, but
any time you get friends involved, it becomes an actual commitment because you're basing your experience on the game to the experience that you're having with your friends. The game is more of like an outlet for you to experience those things with your friends, which definitely makes it memorable. But I think my impressions on the combat system really can be extrapolated to my impressions on the game.
By the way, I hate the word extrapolate. It's not a word that means anything. I hate it. Tell me more about Monster Hunter World.
I think that's all I've got on Monster Hunter World. Anything else is going to be spoiling a little bit more of what little story there is to the game, and really, like I said, it's just a lot of what you're getting out of the game is the experiences and the stories that you actually make for yourself. So,
gotcha.
Highly recommend playing it. Highly recommend getting your friends together and hunting down some monsters, but go into it knowing that it's a little bit different than a random hack and slash.
Gotcha. I also heard that there is a new expansion for it coming out, some sort of ice continent or something like that, and it's going to increase the monster level because I heard that's the biggest complaint is that the monsters are way too few and far between in terms of diversity compared to past titles. I think that the one that's on Switch, I can't remember exactly what it's called, is Generations Ultimate or something like that. That one I think has a extremely high level of monsters compared to past titles. So yeah. It's all about what you want. I think the PS4 one I've heard is more streamlined and it has a lot more quality of life updates to it than the Switch one does. And plus it looks way better because the Switch one was originally a 3DS game.
Speaking of complaints about things, Oni, what are some of the complaints video games related have you had over the years? Or the past year?
That was a terrible segue. Let me just tell you a game I like.
That was like a C segue.
One of my absolute favorite games of the year was Octopath Traveler. Talked about it a little bit last on the podcast last week. I love that game so much. I have some minor complaints with the structure and storytelling, but other than that, like everything else about it, I love to death and is exactly what I want from video games. Yes, give me JRPGs. Yes, give me a turn-based battle system with strategy in each battle where I have to exploit weaknesses. Yes, give me these amazing little visuals for pixel art. Yes, give me this amazing music. God, the music is so good. Not just the arrangements, like in what instruments they use in the music, but I'm talking the composition. There is a really fantastic video about this on YouTube by 8-Bit Music Theory. So if you guys are interested in the music, just check it out because, the music's so good. I just loved being in the world, staring at everything. The visual effects are so egregious and there's just so many visual effects happening that it meshes so perfectly with the fantasy aesthetic and middle-age aesthetic of the game. It looks like a pop-up book like they did with the special edition. It's wonderful. You only played a little bit of it. You only played Honnet's thing, right? What do you have any other meaty bits that you want to give me?
Actually, I'm really glad that we talked about this last week because just earlier today I went back and I actually played the demo again. Like I said, I still had it on my Switch. Yeah, I played as Cyrus this time.
Yay! He was mine! He was the person I chose!
Yeah. And first off, I 100% agree with you about the music. Like, I don't think I played the demo originally to fully comprehend and fully appreciate the music that was in the game.
Yeah.
And then also played a character who I could relate much closer language-wise and vernacular-wise was definitely a appreciative factor for me. And I'm thinking about actually picking up the game itself. Like, this is something that this is one of those rare times that the demo was actually a contributing factor for me. Like,
That's a rare time for you?
A lot of the times, I don't let the demo be the telltale sign as to whether I want to actually put money down on a game or not.
Wait, isn't that exactly what a demo is supposed to do? What do you...
It's supposed to be, but a lot of the I'm
You're like a contrarian existence of a human being.
Aw, you're too sweet. I'm one of those kind of people that if there's something that I'm interested in, I am going to invest in it just from what I have heard.
Yeah, but I mean, if there's a demo and you're like, I don't know, this game looks good, but I've got a couple of reservations about it. Maybe I'll try the demo, and then that will sway me one way or the other.
Yeah, I have very rarely found myself in that position, however. Like, honestly, if I'm at the point where I am downloading a demo, my ideas on if I am going to enjoy this game or not are pretty much set.
Okay.
It's just a matter of...
That explains itself a little bit better.
Yeah. It's really just a matter of, are there any big factors in the game that I did not anticipate, which will change my mind? And this is one of those times that playing through the game, when I played it the first time, it kind of threw me off, because I was not expecting playing through... What was the character's name?
Honnet.
Honnet? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was not expecting Honnet's dialogue to be the way it was, and I thought that was going to be the full game, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll come back to this later. But I'm really glad that I did. I'm really glad I played one of the other characters now. So
yeah, I like Cyrus's like opening story too, because it's like, oh my god, you got to get out of the town because there's rumors around that you're banging the princess. Like, you have to leave.
There was a lot of flirting in the first the teacher student thing.
Well, so that's the thing though, is that Cyrus's character, he's not a flirt. He's very smart and he's very charming and he's very handsome, but he's not intentionally flirting with somebody. He's like a social, he's socially oblivious to things like that. So that was how part of the rumors started, and he kind of that becomes one of his character traits throughout the entire game too, is that Yeah, he's a bit oblivious to those kinds of things, but he falls into those situations so easily because he's super smart and super handsome.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the game.
Awesome.
It. Like I'm really glad I gave it another shot on that one.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that you should continue to play it a little bit and then consider getting it. It's a very long game though, so I mean that's good, but there's that.
It's for the Switch. I can bring it around with me.
Right, and also it's one of those games that benefits from handheld play in terms of visuals as well. It looks so good in handheld mode. It still just looks great.
I can't remember. Is this one of those games where the progression that you make in the demo carries over onto the main game when you actually play it? I know they did that with Bravely Default.
Yeah, and I want to say yes. I'm almost positive yes, because otherwise I think I would have avoided playing the demo, the second demo that came out like right before the game actually released, because then I would have been like, oh, I just have to replay these characters over and over again, you know? So I think that it does, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, the characters, let's go back to the characters there. Some of them are better than others, which is going to happen, right? But some of them are like drastically better than others. Like there's tonal dissonance in terms of characters where like, so there'll be a story that's kind of mature and it's not like dark or anything, but it's a mature concept and sort of an interesting concept like Cyrus is. And then you go to a character that's like Tressa where she's like, I want to explore and I want to be the greatest merchant ever and I want to help people by being a merchant and selling my wares. And then you go over to Primrose's story where she's like a heavily implied prostitute and she's a dancer, and then her keeper is like, I'm going to literally murder you if you don't bang me in the back room. And
oh my god.
Yes, yeah. Primrose's story, by the way, is so good. Like that first chapter of Primrose's story was just fantastic. You have to play it. You have to play it.
Yeah, you're telling me I should play Primrose next.
Yes. So some characters have like a lull, like where Tressa starts off at a lull. It gets more interesting as it goes on, then it goes back down or something like that. And all the characters kind of have that, which I do kind of appreciate, but it's going to be different with each person. Like some people are probably going to hate Primrose's story, so then they might like another person's story. There's literally 8 characters there for you to enjoy. Sometimes the second act is better than the first act. Sometimes the third act is better than the you know what I mean? And I really enjoyed that. But one criticism that's not really a criticism I have. It's more of an observation / nitpick maybe at worst. There was no character that I actually disliked. There was just a little bit of like, a lot of people have said this where there's like tropes or something like that going on. And I do agree, but I'm not necessarily against them as long as the writing was good and as long as it was told in a somewhat interesting way. And for the most part, they did achieve that. So I'm fine with that, right? At least that's just me. What do I want to go into next? Oh, the battle system. I'm only going to touch on this a bit, but the battle system is fantastic. It's always exciting, and the boss battles are great too. Like, oh god, the visuals on the boss battles. I forgot. How can I mention that? The pixel art on the boss battles is so cool. They're huge, huge things that remind me of Final Fantasy VI so much. And yeah, there's a lot of really good strategy involved in a boss battle too, because bosses tend to have like really high HP because they can turn the battle around on you real quick. So they have to have like that endurance, and then you have to be on your toes the entire time. So that's a great thing. And then putting an Oreo on that, what was I going to talk about? There was going to be something I was going to complain about. What was I going to complain about? Oh, okay. So one other thing that I wanted to complain about is that I wish there was more interaction with the characters. I wish there was a little bit more of an overarching story. These are all things that I think everybody has kind of said to some degree. For some people, it's like a deal breaker, which I think is a damn shame, because there is sort of like a world plot happening in the very distant background, and it does link up at the very end from what I've heard. I haven't played that very, very last dungeon. It's quite an undertaking from what I hear, so we'll see. But there is something happening in the very background. It's just that your characters aren't necessarily involved in it in the most heavy-handed RPG way, which I can appreciate, but I still wish it were written just a bit stronger, or your characters were involved just a tad bit more, just to kind of unify them together a little bit more. And I wish that there was a little bit more interaction, of course, during, character X's story happening. Chrono Trigger, I think, does a really good job of this, where your third party member, during whatever story bit is going on, your third party member can be anybody. And whatever story bit's going on, that third party member will have something to say at this very specific situation. And it doesn't like change anything because you can switch out your party member to whoever that you have available at the time. But your character comments on the situation going on, comments in their own way about what's going on, and it just adds a little life. It's showing that that character is there and they're also acting in their own way. So,
and it also like adds a little bit of a replay value to the point where you, if totally. You go through this story again, you want to bring in different characters just to see what they can say.
Yeah, that's totally true. So I wish that they would have done something like that. I know that takes like extra programming and writing and everything for something that's so minor, but those little touches are so appreciated, and they did a lot of really good fine touches here and fine tuning here and there in the game. So it's just sad that that's not in it, but it makes me excited for an Octopath 2, which we haven't, it's not confirmed, but there's a lot of signs from that team saying we're going to be doing something more with the series moving forward, and it was a financial success. So yeah, I'm just excited for that series to keep on growing because I loved so much about it. I highly recommend this to anybody who is into RPGs. Highly recommend it.
So if they actually come out with an Octopath 2, would that be what's a Greek word for like 16 path?
I don't know.
Septopath.
Septopath. Oh, that sounds like you're a killer.
Oh, wow!
All right. For the last game I really want to talk about right now is the one that is on everybody's mind that just came out recently. Let's talk about Smash Bros.
Let's talk about Smash, baby.
Let's grab a controller for you and me.
Hey, you knew which song I was referencing. I'm so proud.
I was born in the 90s, of course I know.
You weren't born in the 90s. You were born in the 80s. I was born in the 80s. Yeah, you were raised in the 90s. Whatever. Talk about anyway. Smash.
Yeah, Smash Bros.
Smash Bros.
No, Smash Bros has been an event this entire year. Yeah. A lot of people, I feel, were wondering what was going on with it because Sakurai had said that the last game almost killed him with like the pains and the carpal tunnels that he was having, the late nights he was putting in.
Having.
What was that?
You said having. Yeah, he was having those pains. By the way, he was having carpal tunnel and everything like that because of the game that he made before that. The other one that also nearly killed him, Kid Icarus for the 3DS. He designed such a goofy control scheme and he played it on the super hard difficulties that he came out with a mangled hand. And
that game was so weird. That game
anybody
was
that played
very
it on the
weird.
Highest difficulty, they know what I'm talking about there.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of that Sakurai killing himself kind of thing. Super doesn't need to be happening because it's Sakurai's own decision. I think that he's a bit of a control freak, and I don't know, control freak says it. And again, I'm not trying to like say something bad about him or anything, but I think that he sort of does it to himself to a small degree. I'm sure that he gets pushed a little bit too much, especially in like crunch time and whatever, but I don't know, that guy needs to probably learn how to work in a team. This is speculation, by the way, just speculation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There were a lot of people who were talking about what was the quality of this game going to be just because of all the drama that was behind it for the past couple of titles. I know that there was that whole Iwata Sakurai interview that they had where they addressed the fact that they announced Smash 4, or no, it was the one for the Wii U.
Yeah,
I think it was.
That's the fourth one.
Yeah, they announced it without consulting them at all, and they thought they were just going to do a port of Melee, and Iwata brought Sakurai into his apartment room and said, hey, listen, this is going to happen. We can go ahead and just recopy the same thing if that's what you really, really want. And almost to the point of, like, blackmailing his...
What? Hold on. I have not heard this kind of story. The only thing I heard is that they announced that there would be a new Smash Brothers. Go ahead.
Yeah, go back and listen to the interview. Go ahead and read the interview again. And there's this underlying tone of, hey, if you don't do this, I can't guarantee that this is going to be a good game. And do you want that to be your legacy, even if your hand's not in the creation of it? And Sakurai said, well, I guess you're forcing my hand because I have to make this game.
I don't know.
It's very subtle, but listen to how the interview goes.
I am very skeptical. I am concerned that you are spreading misinformation right now, and I don't know. Tune in next week for me to probably chew Galen out about this.
I go right on ahead, but regardless.
Anyway, Smash
I
Ultimate,
feel like
you want to talk about that game or what?
I would very much like to talk about this game.
Well, there you go. All right, let's talk about it.
So, personally, I had my concerns when they were saying, hey, everybody is here. I felt like that was going to be the gimmick of saying, we're not going to invest as much new characters into the game, and that was just what a lot of people were thinking at the time. The final product that we got, I feel, is deserving of the hype that it received.
Yeah.
And I think because they have been focusing so much on the Smash Invitationals, more so this year than I feel than other years, I feel like they were trying to subtly cater this into the esports genre without actually saying that. And I know we've talked about this before.
Yeah,
this is the right way to kind of like foster that environment.
A lot of the changes that they did make are very conducive toward competitive play. So not necessarily esports, but I don't know, it's like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, or whatever that saying is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like choosing rules before you choose characters, choosing a stage before you choose characters, the final smashes and whatnot being much more of a quick thing.
Yeah, even coming at it as a spectator sport, it is much more enjoyable to watch with that
the
final
slow motion stuff.
Yeah, with a flash screen right before your smash actually knocks somebody off the stage. Like, that is a really nice touch, and that brings up a lot of hype for somebody who's just watching the game and not even playing it.
Yeah, was it Tekken 7, the most recent one? They did something like that with the slow-mo, and it is absolutely freaking hype for a spectator.
Oh yeah. No, I think they did that in a very tasteful and the correct way if you want to kind of encourage that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, just overall, it's a fun game.
Yes.
Like, is it a perfect game? No, by any means. There are still some problems with it, but I think that this is a game that we are going to be seeing quite a bit of, especially because they are going to be focusing more on that competitive aspect and that aspect of people coming in and watching the game, and also the new characters. Like, half the fun of a new Smash Bros. Game coming out is that question of what new characters are going to be in there. Well, they've already launched the game. That's something that people can go out and buy right now. But you're still carrying on that, hey, what character's coming out next? You're extending the life of that excitement and that anticipation.
Yeah, even if you are not like an avid Smash player, or even if you aren't a Smash player, the discussion that Smash fosters, and especially as outrageous as it has gotten with the character roster and the content that damn game has, as crazy as that is, anybody is up for, I don't know about up for discussion, but can add something to that discussion, especially with them adding the Fighters Pass going into 2020. I think early 2020 is when the last character is supposed to be either announced or come out. That adds so much more life to that game in the public eye.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I think this is definitely something that is worth mentioning, that this was a huge game to come out this year.
Yes, it was. And I'm really happy with how it turned out too, because I was kind of not concerned, but I was just kind of setting my expectations a bit lower. Because I was thinking it would just be Smash 4.5. And as more and more characters got announced, and like this was changed and that was changed and this was tweaked, I was like, damn, this is kind of Smash 5. Like,
yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm really happy exactly where they sat with things. You know, it really, whatever. Well, I'll end it right there. Yeah, that game is great. Okay. The game is so much fun. The online, though, I heard is atrocious. I heard that some people are like fine with it and they're like not having as many complaints, but I've heard so many complaints about it that, and I also haven't played it yet just because I'm not much of an online player in general.
Yeah, I've tried playing a couple of online matches,
Yeah.
and there's still that lag, there's still that delay, and I think that is the problem that you're going to be getting with a wireless console. I don't know if that's something that can necessarily be solved from a hardware standpoint, because I know they came out with that Ethernet LAN adapter that you can physically plug into your docking station.
Yeah.
But while you might do that, while you might go and say, hey, this is how I want to play this game, there's still going to be that people who are on the go and over at their friend's house and like, hey, I want to jump on and do an online match, and their connection is the one that ruins it for everybody else.
So I have something to say about that, though. We are currently paying for Nintendo Switch Online, and there are not dedicated servers for one of their biggest, if not their biggest, online game.
Mm-hmm.
That is a problem. That is the problem. Because right now, what are we exactly paying for with Nintendo Switch Online if we're paying for online? That's my problem.
To be honest, I don't view Nintendo Switch Online as an online service just yet.
But it is.
I think
it is. Like, regardless whether you view it as that or not, that's what they're marketing it as. They're putting online behind a paywall now, which I'm not necessarily against. But if it's the same online that we've always had, and then now you're just saying, well, now you have to pay for it, like, that's anti-consumer. I'm fine with what is it? The not virtual console. I'm fine with that and them adding things to it. The Netflix, if you will. I don't care too much about that. I'm fine with it. I think it's growing and it's getting a little better. But the online, the main thing that you're paying for with this, that needs to be improved. You need to have dedicated servers for Smash, for Mario Kart, and for any other big game that you're trying to push as an online game.
I agree with you on that one. I mean, honestly, right now, I am not looking at the Nintendo Switch Online service as an online service. I'm looking at it as Netflix. There is nothing that they have brought to the table to lead me to believe that paying for the service will increase the quality of their online service. And it's because it is just $20 for the year.
That's not a fair thing to say, though, because they're putting online behind that paywall, so you're paying for online. You know what I'm saying? Like, if online were free and you're paying for Netflix, then that's one thing, but you are paying for the online. So if I'm putting my money toward their online, it's called Nintendo Switch Online, for Christ's sakes. Like, they need dedicated servers for things like this. I get, like, in the beginning, some situations where it's like, okay, well, this online is basically in beta, and, you know, that I don't think is the right way to have handled things, but I have fewer gripes about that than just there not even being dedicated servers. That, and I heard the rule choosing or matchmaking thing is also kind of weird because there's preferences rather than straight up, okay, you're only going to find 1v1 no items here. And then suddenly you get into 4v4 all items.
Yeah, I noticed that as well when I was playing it. I was kind of expecting, hey, let's go in, just that. I was like, hey, I want to do a 1v1 no items, and I got put into a 1v1, and all of a sudden banana peels were coming up all over the place. I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, and if you're already annoyed with, like, the online connectivity, and then you're trying to do 1v1 no items, suddenly you get into 4v4 with items, and it's gonna run like crap, and then you're like, well, I have to continue to play this stupid match, because if I don't play it, if I, like, self-destruct or drop out, then I get the ban thing, and it's like, I don't know. That's another reason why I don't play online, really, is that, like, all of that sounds so unfun. It sounds like a waste of time when I don't have that much time to be playing video games in the first place.
And maybe that's why the whole Nintendo Switch Online controversy, if you will, didn't really affect me all too much, because, again, when they came out with a service, I did not look at it as, hey, this is the only way I can ever play online ever. Well, I don't really play online with it anyway.
But that's anecdotal, like, dude. Like, I understand that it doesn't affect you too much, because I also don't play online very much at all. I really do not. But to say that, well, it's not this because I'm not experiencing it like this, it still is this. It still is the facts. It still is what it is for so many people, an online service that you have to pay for. That's one of the 4 or 5 main things in their bullet points where they say this is what you're getting when you pay for the service. Did I kill you?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. I thought I just killed you with logic.
No, I've been dead to logic for quite some time. I'm on my like second or third res right now.
Clearly. So on that note, since we're just rolling into it, how about we talk about how Nintendo did this year, particularly with the Switch. I want to talk about major releases that Nintendo themselves have released. So not any like third-party stuff, just like Nintendo themselves, their efforts this year. So things to consider are Nintendo Labo, because that came out at the beginning of the year, right? Didn't it come out this year?
It did come out. It came out early this year.
But I mean, like, I don't know, this timeline that we're living in is so freaking whacked. Like, I don't even know if that came out last year. But anyway, yeah, Labo came out this year. Kirby Star Allies, Mario Tennis Aces, Xenoblade 2, Torna the Golden Country came out, Super Mario Party, Pokemon, Smash, and then there was a whole bunch of like updated ports that came out too, like Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, Bayonetta 1 and 2, Captain Toad, Hyrule Warriors. So what are your just general thoughts, your entry-level thoughts about how Nintendo did this year?
So overall, I think they did pretty well.
Yeah.
Starting off with the ports that they came out with, I noticed a trend that they were bringing over a lot of the games that did really well on the Wii U, but they didn't do really well because they were on the Wii U. Like, all the games that they came out with, Captain Toad was especially, I'm really glad they came out with that one, because I really want to play that one, and I never picked it up for the Wii U, because I can never justify it. Even when it was $40 for a Nintendo price, that was still pretty good. But I'm really glad that they're taking these steps to realize, okay, the Wii U didn't do it nearly as well, but we really think we have something with the games that came out on it. So I'm really glad they're going back, they're doubling down on their stand of saying these are good games.
Yeah, actually, I want to talk about the ports a bit too, where I know a lot of people complain about the ports, and I can sort of see their argument, but not really, honestly. Honestly, I can't really see their freaking argument, because here's the thing is that like the Wii U underperformed so hard. The install base was so low, and these are fantastic games. I don't think anybody is going to argue that the Wii U didn't have great games. It's that the hardware was unappealing itself.
Yeah.
And so Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze is one of the absolute best platformers I've ever played in my entire life. It is amazing. Bayonetta 1 and 2 are both fantastic character action games. Absolutely fantastic. Captain Toad is one of my favorite Wii U games that I purchased that entire time. It is so charming. It is so good for puzzles. There's lots of little things to collect. It is just a pure joy to be playing that game. Hyrule Warriors is awesome for all of its Warriors content, or not Warriors content, but like Warriors action, and then also the amazing amount of Zelda and the love letter to Zelda that it is, while putting a huge swing, whatever, on the formula. And I really love that game. And actually, leading into some other things, sorry, I stole your whole thing.
No, I get you. I generalizing a little bit more about ports in general, I'm right in agreement with you that I don't really get much when it comes to people's arguments on it, because there is no situation where people lose out. Yeah. Like if you are playing the game and you're playing it for nostalgia's sake, it's hard to complain about that because you've played it before. Most likely you still own the game, or you have access to the game. And if you don't have access to the game, well, you need to access it in some way or another already. So here's this convenient way to play it on the current console.
Yeah, so sort of on that is that a lot of people are, I don't know about a lot of people, but I see some people getting upset that a game came out that they bought on the Wii U. And it's like, you're not losing out. This doesn't decrease the value of the time that you enjoyed because you played the game, 4 years or 5 years earlier.
Exactly.
If you want to really play it again with a few extra features, you can buy it again.
A game that I would love for them to come out with again is Wonderful 101. I would love to see a port of that
but
game.
I really don't think that they will, just because it underperformed so much. It barely sold anything. And so I think that like from a marketing point of view, I don't think that they will release it. If they do release it, I will buy it again. That's one of the few games that I will double dip on because I like that game a lot.
Yeah. Your main hero from Wonderful 101 is another one of those characters I was really surprised not to see come out as a Smash Bros. Character, or at least like an
a
assist trophy in some way.
Yeah. Why aren't we getting
Right?
these trophies? Like, such a damn
It's
shame.
like everybody completely forgot about that game, and that game was so good, and they put a decent amount of publicity and hype into that game.
They did, yeah.
And I know it did not necessarily sell well, but again, did it not sell well because it was on the Wii U?
Yeah.
Is this game worth giving another shot? I honestly think that it is.
I mean, I want to believe that that's the answer, but I don't know if that's the answer, right? So
oh yeah, of course.
I would love to see that game getting ported over, or at least do like a 1.5, expansion of it or something. But I don't know. I can't see them doing that because Platinum's busy with other stuff, and that game barely sold anything. So where's the return on investment on that, right? So I don't.
That's
I don't
true.
think so.
I feel like if they were to report that game, they would have to do it sooner rather than later. So in that argument, I can see where you're coming from on believing that it's probably not going to happen. I hope that it does. I really do. Yeah. I'll stay optimistic on that one, but I can definitely see why it wouldn't happen if it doesn't.
Yeah.
And cycling back around, I just really hope they take that kind of stuff into consideration when coming out with future ports, because there is so much good that was on the Wii U that I would love to see them bring forward, and not just their main titles. I was honestly a little bummed out when they were talking about the Super Mario U port they were doing, because that was another thing that they announced, just this year. I feel like that is something that they didn't need to port over. I feel like that was an identity that needed to stay specifically on the Wii U. If they were going to be making another one, they should have just started over from scratch, made a whole new Mario that was going to be for the Switch.
I don't agree though, because I think that already when it came out on the Wii U as a launch title, the novelty and the excitement of that series, the new Super Mario Bros. Series, had already worn off, and so I think that this is a minimal effort port for them.
Oh yeah, it's incredibly minimal effort. Because you had the new Super Mario for the 3DS, and I think that was the first one that they came out with.
The DS one, correct. The DS one, and then they made one for... I don't remember which one came first, if it was the 3DS... No, Wii. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it went DS, then the Wii one, then the 3DS one, and then the Wii U one. There's 4 of them, I think.
And just fast-forwarding to the Wii U one, not only did we get the Wii U version, but we also got the new Luigi U's version, which...
Yeah, it was fun.
Granted, this port's going to be bundling both into one thing, which is definitely really nice. But could that effort have gone into providing us something that we're not getting for a third time? I don't mind getting it a second time.
This is another thing, though, that I wanted to talk about. In terms of people like arguing about ports. Who is the team behind making the port? That is the big question, because it's not like the developers who made the game originally, or developers who make, I don't know, game whatever in the future. It's not like those are the people that are doing the ports, necessarily. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. A good example is the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD, both of those games on the Wii U. Wind Waker was done in-house, if I recall correctly, by Nintendo. I don't know which department of Nintendo, whether they're like actual game makers or whether they're just technical people in general. And then Twilight Princess was done out of house by Tantalus, which is, I think, an Australian group that specializes in ports. So that's the other thing too, is that if this is not slowing down any kind of production on any future games, and you're outsourcing it to another group that is capable, or if you're doing it in-house by other people that don't focus on making games, then it's not slowing down your release schedule. Everybody seems to think that immediately it always is slowing down your release schedule to put in a port, and that's not the case. You have to kind of look into it. So anybody that immediately like poo-poos that idea for that reason, I hate the word poo-poo. Why did I say that? It's gross. Anybody that immediately does that, they're not thinking critically, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a fair point, to be completely honest. developers definitely need to be taken into account when you are considering these lineups and these launch schedules.
Yes, if it is all, like, say all of these ports, even just these 4 ports this year, if they are all being ported over by the original developers and then it's slowing down the release schedule, that's a solid argument then, where it's like, no, but you're slowing down the release schedule of future games that we want to see. We want to see new games. That's a solid argument. However, I don't think that that is actually the case based on factual history. Factual history? Weird. What? That doesn't make sense. I've had 3 coffees today, okay? I'm just going to be honest. The one other thing, though, that I do want to say about ports that Nintendo has been doing from Wii U to Switch in particular that does bother me, the price. They're releasing these all at full price rather than knocking it down just a bit. I mean, business-wise, they're still selling. They're outselling their Wii U ones like almost every single time. So, I mean, I get it from a business aspect because these are brand new games to so many people. For someone like me, where I bought the games on Wii U, and then I'm thinking about double dipping because of the new features or something, and then it's a full price game, it's led me to not purchase them. I haven't bought any of these ports. The only thing that I have double dipped on in terms of Wii U ports to Switch is Mario Kart, and that was it. All the other ones I haven't bought. I do want to get Hyrule Warriors because I only played the Wii U one, and the Switch one has all the 3DS quality of life changes plus better performance and everything, so I am thinking about getting that, but I don't want to spend full price on it. And I think that, I mean, not just because that's also my argument, but I think that that is a reasonable complaint. Whether that is accurate or not, it's a reasonable complaint, in my opinion, that the price is a bit high for a game that's technically older and was developed before.
It's not new content. You're just going ahead and recycling the old stuff and kind of putting it forward with a fresh new coat of paint.
Yes, and again, I already brought it up, but like on the other side of that, if they're selling and they're selling at full price still to people, as a business, would you lower your price just to be kind? You know,
Yeah.
What they're doing is an anti-consumer, but it's, I don't know, it isn't anti-consumer by any means, but it's just like,
it's not anti-consumer because they're not necessarily going back and saying, you know, hey, we're going to try to pinch every penny that we can, but you're not doing the consumer any favors at the same time.
Yeah, it's right in the middle there.
You're not taking a standpoint of, hey, we're doing this in good faith to the people who have stand behind, who are loyal customers for as long as they have been our loyal customers.
And that's the thing, is that that's not the intended audience for these ports. Like, the ports are only going to be purchased by people who haven't played these games before and the diehards. And people like me who are shy of being a diehard but a big fan, who would double dip on something if it makes good sense to him, I'm not the intended audience for this port. So anyway, we went way off the rails on that, but I think that anyway, these 4 games that they released as ports this year, I think they were all great games, and I'm very happy to see them all on the Switch, because I think more people should be experiencing absolutely every single one of these games. Maybe a little bit less Hyrule Warriors if you're not into Warriors gameplay. The other 3, absolutely, those are some of the best games on the Wii U.
Absolutely. And I mean, none of the games that they reported that I have seen were bad games in any sense. They made fantastic choices with the content that they did select. I really hope going into 2019 they continue making those kind of choices.
What else do you think about it with Smash, Pokemon Let's Go coming out? Pokemon Let's Go, I think, was that's an interesting emotional release, because people were so upset when they first heard about it, and then got interested, and then got upset again, and then the game came out, and then people were like, begrudgingly, like, actually this is pretty fun. And it's super interesting to see where all of that went with fan response.
I think people didn't really understand what Pokemon Let's Go was when it first launched.
Hell, I still don't understand, like, who is this game for? No, really, I still don't understand who that game is for. Not that I have any problems with it, I just,
No, it's a new take on what they have been doing. They're trying to bridge the gap between... You know who I think this audience is for? I think this audience is specifically for the Pokemon Let's Go players who have Pokemon Go, I'm sorry. I think this is for the Pokemon Go players who were not Nintendo fans beforehand, who want more from the experience and would like to know more about it, but who might still be put off from a fully fledged Pokemon game.
So I agree with you there, but I don't know. Like, isn't that quite a leap in faith and logic in terms of...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, in
absolutely.
terms of getting those people who like to rub on their phones all day to suddenly go buy a Switch and then play this not rub on your phone kind of game, you know?
Well, you think about how long a game needs to be in development for. And
oh yeah, this was also a quick
started,
turnaround kind of thing for them. They needed a Pokemon game by the Christmas season,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's also what this game was. That's the thing that makes the most sense to me.
No, I feel like they needed a Pokemon game. They're appealing to the Let's Go market just because of the popularity of Pokemon Go in general. I think they specifically kept it vague just so there was that chance that people from the diehard market would still pick up a copy of the game thinking, oh, hey, this is that fully fledged Pokemon game that we've been waiting for this entire time that's going to be on a console. Well, it's not. That's still in development.
They've been pretty transparent about that's not what this is.
True, but I'm also thinking about the market of people who don't follow that and who are picking up simply because it is a Pokemon game.
Yeah. I mean, I do think, I don't know, trick is not the word that I would use, but I do think that some people will either be confused or be uninformed, I guess. I don't know, that's for a lack of a better word, uninformed that is the case. But I'm sure, especially with the crazy marketing that they will definitely do next year, if the next Pokemon game does hit its mark for Christmas 2019, I think that it'll be fine.
And the shame of this whole misinformation / misconstrued information / expectations that weren't fully understood at the time.
You are putting a lot of words in my mouth right now.
I'm putting a lot of slashes right now.
Shove it down my gullet.
This whole thing, the worst part about it is, from what I understand, it's a pretty good game. Like, it's enjoyable. Yeah. It's got this element of you don't have to worry about the competitive nature of it because you can just kind of go play the game, not have to worry about any sort of hardcore meta that is behind the battle system or anything like that. The game's not designed for that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So it's a much more inviting aspect.
Yeah, I heard that there's a lot of changes in it that people have in the hardcore community have welcomed in terms of like grinding and finding the right Pokemon that you want with different, I don't know, I'm not a hardcore Pokemon player, so I don't remember what these terms are, but like their attitudes and some of the other stats that are like supplementary. So that's interesting. That's interesting that the game has been received pretty well after launch, even though some of the core mechanics of the game are still contentious. So
this was a surprise all in all.
Yeah. In like every single part of its timeline, it has been a surprise.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the games that came out a little bit earlier in the year. Kirby Star Allies and all of the DLC that came out throughout the year, free post-launch DLC that came out in the year. And then Mario Tennis Aces with all of its free post-launch DLC. I love Nintendo doing that. I think that it is completely pro-consumer, and I'm surprised that they're doing that, honestly, because they could easily be charging like, oh, here's your season pass, but your season pass is only $5 or $10 or whatever they want to charge, right? And still charge it at a fair price. Like, they could easily do that, and I would still applaud them for like, oh, look at all this great content, and it's only $5 for the whole thing, right?
Yeah. Nintendo has been very interesting this year because they've been flip-flopping and going back and forth on the right steps to take and then the wrong steps to take.
And the wrong completely like wrong but totally generous steps to take, like with Kirby and Mario Tennis. And I say wrong like in a business aspect. Like, I don't know, it's not wrong, it's just that like it's weirdly generous for a business because Nintendo is a business, and like, I don't know, businesses are about making money, right? They're not doing this to be nice, you know?
I think part of what they're doing is that they have this select content. They're testing the waters for sure when it comes to how they want to approach things like DLC and general additional content.
Yeah, so like with Fire Emblem has typically been their series where they've been doing disgusting DLC practices, and I'm very interested to see what they're going to do with the upcoming Fire Emblem in spring or whenever that's supposed to come out. and see if they're going to do more disgusting DLC practices with that.
Nintendo's been doing this weird thing where it's almost as if they're not listening to the history of online content that's out there. Like, they know that it needs to happen. They know they need to start getting into that realm of online content. However, instead of listening to the steps and following the steps that other companies like Sony and Microsoft have been taking in regards to online strategies, they are completely starting from scratch and doing their own thing, which is good because you really get a chance to iron out some of the problems that we're finding in online communities. Like, the whole debacle, the fact that microtransactions are basically a meme when you're talking about any AAA game nowadays for any of the other major companies.
Do you mean a pattern, not a meme?
Well, no, I'm talking about a meme in the sense that it's basically a punchline.
Okay.
If I'm talking about, like, oh, hey, did you hear that Activision is coming out? Oh, I wonder how many microtransactions that one's going to have.
Yeah, I mean, that's not really a meme, but
okay, not a meme. I'll go with a pattern.
I have linguistic problems with the word meme in today's society. Okay, I've got opinions. About linguistic words. Linguistic words? Why did I just say that? I've got opinions about my own crap that I just said. I've got so many redundancies.
Go back to speaking hyperbole.
Yeah, hyperbole. I don't have a joke there. I just said the word. That's all.
I think that is the joke. It's just saying hyperbole. Going back to what I was saying, though, is that I think that they're definitely doing some good things because they are approaching online from a fresh start. They're making it up as they go and going with what works, but they're taking some missteps along that path. And
are they?
Yeah. Nintendo is having some very strange growing pains.
Yes,
right
now. And it's like, boy, you're a late bloomer. And, like, there's all these, like, problems that it's got, and it's like, oh my god, this is a problem that the industry was having 6 years ago. It's already been fixed, and we already have a solution to this. Why are you doing it this dumb, Nintendo? And I don't have a specific example for that right now, so I could be sort of blowing air on that. I don't know. Nintendo oftentimes runs into those things where it's like, oh, why is Nintendo being dumb? But then there's other times where it's like, yes, they're nailing it, right? It's frustrating to be a Nintendo fan. It really is.
I think what they're doing right now and taking the steps with the free content is definitely something that is... I hate to dumb it down so much, but it is a good thing. Like,
yeah, no, it should be totally applauded, and it should be talked about. That's why I want to applaud and talk about this kind of thing, and I hope that both, like, Kirby and Mario sell gangbusters. I know that they have sold really well, but I just want them to continue selling gangbusters to send that financial message to Nintendo. Yes, please do either free or cheap-ass DLC.
Exactly. Like, I will, again, going back, I will admit that Nintendo Online definitely has some problems right now with what they have done.
So many
problems. So many problems, but they've also had so many hits as well. And I feel that the problems that they are making are things that can be fixed. They're things that can be adjusted so that they are not problems. And when you combine that with the things that they have been doing well, such as the free DLC that they've been launching for these games and the free support that they've been launching, it's steps to be a stronger online, what's the word I'm looking for? Community source, stronger online support structure than any of their competitors. And I think that was a really smart thing to do. I don't know where I'm going with this anymore.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know what you're
circles.
talking about, I'll be honest. And I'm not about to bring up my argument against your online whatever, because I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? Anyway, all in all, Nintendo, a pretty good year. Looking forward to next year, yeah?
Oh yeah, 100%.
So next week on the podcast, we'll be talking all about our hype for next year and some titles that are coming out next year that we're very excited about.
Yeah, there's a lot of good both Nintendo stuff and also non-Nintendo stuff that we might see come on to Nintendo later down the road. I think 2019 is going to be a really good year, and I'm really excited to talk about that next week.
Yeah, me too. There's some titles already announced that I just am very excited about, and then I know there's tons more surprises that they're going to be announcing in the near future, so looking forward to that.
Plus, we're closing out the new year this year with, what we liked in 2018. We're talking about what we're excited about 2019 next one. I think it works out.
It's going to be good. It's going to be so good.
It's going to be so fun.
Wonderful forever!
But before we get to all that, we got additional DLC, and we also got listener mail. So let's talk about additional DLC right now. Just a reminder of what this segment is. I introduced it last week. It's my goal to spread some positivity and diversity in media. So each week, Galen and I will have one recommendation for you, one recommendation of any form of media whatsoever. And if you like, you can check it out and see if it's for you. We're going to put links in the description. So whatever service you're looking at right now, there will always be links. When I say looking, I mean listening. You're listening to us. So anyway, my additional DLC for this week is a performance on YouTube by Erykah Badu. This was at the Soul Train Awards 2018. My friend showed me this just the other day when we were hanging out on Christmas, and it's soulful, it's funky, it's bluesy. It starts out small just with her with like mainly piano and brass and some chimes a little bit, but then it gets bigger and bigger as the songs go on. It's like 20 minutes long, and she is just a musical goddess genius, and I love her to death. I can't get enough of this performance. I can't stop watching it, so do check it out. Galen, what's your additional DLC?
Well, and actually, I just wanted to agree with you on that one. I had a chance to listen to this right before the podcast. And,
oh, did you?
Oh, yeah, I did. It's an experience going through. Like, it is definitely a journey that she takes you on when she's... I feel like there is a shift in the different types of blues and jazz that she's singing along, which from an artistic standpoint is not easy to do. So it definitely is worth it. Yeah, it is an amazing listen. I highly recommend it as well.
Thank you.
Going to my personal additional DLC, I want to talk about a game, but not a video game.
Lame.
Yeah, I know. Who goes analog anymore? Over the holiday, I managed to get my hands on a copy of a game called Dungeon Mayhem. It is a card game that you can play with up to 4 people. It's made by the people who actually do Dungeons and Dragons or Wizards of the Coast. And it is a fun play on the classes that you would play in Dungeons and Dragons in a 4-player brawl, but it's done in a very simplified, easy to pick up way. So you play the game by, you draw a number of cards, and each card has like an icon of do 1 to 3 damage, or draw an additional card, or you get to play 2 cards this turn. It is very fair in the way that the game is played, and it's also a lot of fun. Like, you get down to the point where even if you get knocked out early on, you still... there were a couple of moments that I did not know who was going to win, and I started to get excited and invested because it could very easily go either way.
That's good. I like that a lot, actually, in a card game, because if you just kind of know that you're losing and people are just miles ahead of you, then you kind of lose interest, or not even lose interest, but you lose your vigor for playing the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really fun. It's pretty cheap for a card game. It's like, I think either 15 or 20 bucks, depending on if it's on sale where you find it.
Cool. That's it for additional DLC. Let's read some listener mail. This week, we got some listener mail from Casey. Casey writes, if you had to describe your podcast as a sandwich... Oh, hold on, it's scrolling. Okay, if you had to describe your podcast as a sandwich, what kind would it be? And Casey also wrote some long stuff on there. I'm sorry, Casey, we're not reading... I don't know if that's a boy or a girl. Not reading your whole message, just your question. Thank you very much for your kind words, though. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you, Casey.
So, you first.
Well, I thought about this long and hard. If I was to describe this podcast as a sandwich, I think I would describe it as a Reuben.
Oh, why?
Well, you just got the savoriness of the entire thing, which it just tastes good when you're actually taking a bite into it. And when you think about what makes it, you've got me, the, corned beef, and then you, the sauerkraut. I mean, it's perfect.
Okay, I was about to like totally yell at you for your decision, but you pulled it in together at the very last second. It's really strong. That's a really strong decision, actually. It's a really good one.
It's a good sandwich.
So for me, I was thinking that this is more of a very confused sandwich that you make in a hurry because you have to pack something for lunch like right now. And you're like a couple minutes late, so you can't think about like what you're supposed to be putting in the sandwich. There's like two meats that don't really go together in the sandwich. There's like some vegetables, but you cut them the wrong way, so they're falling out of the sandwich when you try and take a bite of it. And it's got the good bits in there, but boy, is it needs a little bit more work.
It's that sandwich with whatever leftovers you can find in the fridge, and you're just going through and it's like, celery, hot dogs, and mayo. Okay, let's see if this is a thing. I gotta go. I'm 5 minutes late.
I didn't say that, you jerk. I didn't say that at all. It's not, our podcast is not that bad of a sandwich. I'm talking about like, okay, it's got like roast beef and turkey in there, and you're kind of like, kind of don't really go together, but that's fine. It's fine. They're different. And then you got other vegetables in there, like whatever you just happen to have, but they're good quality. So you got good peppers in there, or good red onions, or whatever. But it's kind of thrown in there, not working exactly. And I don't know. We'll figure the sandwich out. We'll figure it out, guys.
Can I just call you sauerkraut for the rest of the podcast?
Get out!
So thank you very much, Casey, for writing into us. We totally forgot to say, if you have an email that you want to send to us, if you want to ask us about our sandwiches, about our Street Fighter experiences, about our lives, about your life, about our recommendations for your life, or video games, you can write us an email by sending it to nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com.
nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com. We especially want to hear about the questions that you have about your own life, because that sounds like an interesting read.
Yeah, I think I find myself as somebody who's gone through things, so perhaps I can offer some wisdom. Perhaps.
Words of wisdom from sauerkraut and corned beef.
I hate you. I have nothing else to say, but I just hate what I'm doing right now. I hate it.
Fuck off!
So next week, as we mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about 2019, what we're hyped for. If there's any news, we're going to be talking about that. And yeah, let's just refresh all of our memories for what games are coming out, like Fire Emblem, Metroid, Bayonetta, Luigi's Mansion, all these other games that I can't think about. We're going to be talking about it.
I'm really excited to talk about what's coming up in 2019.
Me too, especially like right after the holiday sales season, because you're just so focused on that, right? And then you finally get a chance to be like, all right, let's think about these other things that we've sort of pushed aside after the initial announcement. So yeah, that's going to be a nice, refreshing episode, I think. In terms of what is coming up on Nintendo Everything, the Phantasy Star interview is done. We are just trying to wrap a few loose ends up on there. There's lots of Sega Ages information in there. It's not just Phantasy Star. So we're kind of evaluating right now if it needs to be broken up a little bit. That'll be coming out soon. If you want to check out more news, more Nintendo-related goodness, you can check out our website, of course, nintendoeverything.com. We have a Twitter, that's @nineverything. And we also have great content on our YouTube. That's youtube.com/nineverything. You can also find me on Twitter, where I complain about things and post pictures of cats, @Oni_Dino. How about you, Galen?
And you can definitely find me at my Twitter, which is @Mobius087.
And a big reminder to everybody who is listening to us, we want our show to grow, and in order to do that, we need your help. So if you can spare the time, please do share the podcast with some people that you think might enjoy it. Give us ratings on iTunes and YouTube and all that junk that you listen to us on, so we can appease the RNG, random number generator gods, RNGGs, the GGs. They do the algorithms and they make sure that we get seen. That's how we get found out, is if you give us ratings and stuff. So if you got the time, if you do like it, if you do want us to grow and keep doing this show, we really appreciate your help on that.
Thank you so much for playing my game.
And for those who listen on Spotify and iTunes, you can get the podcast a little bit early. I try to upload it Sunday mornings in the States time. Sometimes it'll come out a little bit earlier than that, like maybe Saturday night, but just aim for Sunday mornings. I think that's when we're going to keep on doing this regularly. And then on our website, we post that a little bit later in the day, and on the YouTube a little bit later in the day too. So if you're listening on Spotify and iTunes, you get it early. So you should give us a little rating right there. That's worth your time, I think. So stay tuned for next week, because we got a great show coming up, really refreshing show. And for everything Nintendo,
stay tuned to Nintendo Everything.
Bye-bye.
Later.